Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to Intentional Productivity Tips. My name is Megan SANDWICK. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner, and I'm so happy to be back with you again. This week, I am very excited. We are getting started with a productivity boost, and we are going to do a productivity core 4 habits series over the next 4 weeks. The goal of a productivity boost is to take time to be intentional, to stay, where am I with my productivity habits? What habits do I need to work on? What habits do I need to grow? So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to look at that. We are going to look at that. Again, this is Intentional Productivity Tips. You can find me here every Wednesday at 5 Pacific. You can also find me on usaglobaltvandradio.com, the website. You can find information about our programs, or you can follow us, like, and subscribe to us on 2 YouTube channels, USA Global Radio and TV, USA Global TV and Radio, or Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. So that's where you can find me each week. Well, after we're done with this show, you will be able to find this episode on USA Global TV and Radio. So let's start talking about our productivity boost series. I'm going to get started and I'm going to share handouts with you so that we can guide along, so you can follow along with the presentation, and so you can hear and take time to be intentional with your productivity habits. As I mentioned, we are going to be talking about our core 4 habits. Part 1 today is creating a daily checklist process. Over the next 4 weeks, as I mentioned, we are going to complete a productivity boost series. This is where we're going to look at some of your productivity habits. We want to look at what is it that you're doing with them, how can we be more intentional, and how can you work smarter, not harder. The 4 weeks, we're going to cover 4 topics. This week, we're going to talk about a daily checklist process. Next week, we're going to talk about calendaring and time management preferences. On week 3, we're going to talk about tracking and updating priorities. And week 4, we're going to do a tools review. So at the end of this 4 weeks, you're going to be able to be intentional with your productivity, and you're going to improve some of your current productivity habits, because each week we are going to have actionable ideas and suggestions that you can use. As you know, when it comes to intentional productivity tips, my goal is that by the end of every episode, you have one action or takeaway that you can follow up with for the following weeks and moving forward. So let's talk about today. As we're talking about a productivity boost, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about 3 things today. Very excited to get started. We're going to talk about our productivity preferences. When we're talking about our habits, it's important not only to talk about the actions that we take, but the preferences and the things that are important to us. When I say important to us, productivity preferences is an area we have to be intentional. We have to figure out what works best for us. We're going to talk about today, are you a productivity flow or structure person? Then we're going to get into talking about our core 4 series topic of creating a daily checklist. And then last but not least, this week's productivity quick tip is going to be your closing 5. So those are the 3 things we're going to talk about today as we're together. Productivity preferences. It's important to think about, when it comes to our productivity, our actions, our behaviors, our habits, and our mindset, even our processes. It's important to be intentional to find processes that work for us. When it comes to productivity, when I've worked with productivity clients over the last 10 years, one thing that I've noticed is that every person has different preferences for how they go about getting their stuff done, how they go about taking action. Two of these preferences that I've worked with clients the most on are you a productivity flow person or are you more of a productivity structure person? What does that mean? Let's talk a little bit about it. When we think about a person when we're in our productivity flow, it means that we might thrive in a dynamic environment. You set general priorities and you adapt as you go. It's a flexible approach. It allows you to complete tasks based on how your work block works, how your mind works, and you prefer minimal rigid structure in favor of adapting to the natural flow. So the productivity flow person, the person that's preference is to be more of a flow person, they need to be flexible. Well, they need to have their activities, their actions, and their tasks. They need to know what they are. They need to allow and have it be. It needs to not be a rigid system. There needs to be flexibility for what's going on in the moment for the productivity flow person. Another option is you could be more of a structure person. This is when you excel with a clear, organized task list and a well-defined system. You value having structure. You like to have a specific guideline. You like to have a specific time, or you want to follow a methodical approach that includes following along with the schedule. As I'm saying this, are you listening to me and thinking, maybe I'm more of a flow person, or maybe I'm more of a structure person? The reality is, in our world, we're generally not able to be 100% flow or 100% structure. Because when you think about it, when we're talking about flow, we still have deadlines, we still have things that we need to finish. So we still have guidelines that we need to follow. It's just that when we're talking about productivity structure, we're being a lot more specific and a lot more detailed. If you're wondering, how does this relate to me or how can I figure out which one I am? Again, a majority of the time, you're not going to be 100% one or the other. One of the reasons we're talking about these preferences as we're going through our productivity core four is because we want to identify that depending on the circumstances, there's times when we might need to be a flow person. There's times when we might need to say, you know what, I have a deadline. I need to get this done. I need to follow structure. I need more of that organization. So we generally are not one way or another. It depends on the situation. It depends on what's going on. It depends on us. And so that's why when we're talking about our preferences, I want us to start thinking about when we need to be structured and when we need to be flow. You might wonder, how do I know when I want to be more flow, when I want to be more structure? Let's talk about a couple questions that go with that. So, do you prefer a set schedule and clear plans, or do you like to adapt and handle tasks as they come? Now, I will tell you, as a strategic productivity partner, this is something I work with my clients quite a bit, is to identify when they need to have that structure and what that structure looks like. And then I've identified when my clients need less of the rigidity and more space so they can do what they need to. I have one client that I have worked with for several years, and he has become much more of a structured person because of the life that he's living right now with family and kids and things like that. So one of the things he and I have done is we set everything that he needs more of a schedule and more time. How do you manage unexpected tasks? Do you like to fit them in as they go? Do you adjust on the fly? Again, there's times when we need to, again, follow a structured mindset, but we also know that we're going to need to have a flow. Things are going to come up. We're not going to be able to control 100% of our time. And so we need to be prepared in how we're going to respond to that. That might be a time when something comes up when we say, okay, I'm going to set this down and I'm going to jump over to this. Again, it's our productivity preferences. It's being intentional with what we're doing. It's being intentional with how we're looking at our current tasks list, our current priorities, our current priority projects. How are we looking at that current thing we're working on? And what can we do to make sure we're getting it done the best we can? For example, I will be honest with you. When it comes to productivity structure and flow, I will be honest with you. I am much more of a flow person than I am a structure person. And so getting to know that about ourselves, we can understand, again, this goes back to preferences. For example, one of the reasons that I'm much more of a flow person is because of my day. Working with clients, I'll have early morning client meetings and client calls a lot of days. And so I may be waking up at 5 or 6 for my client calls. And then when it comes time to work on my project time, I need to have, so my client calls are at a very specific time, right? But when it comes to my projects, I can't have that same rigidity. I need to have flexibility based on what's going. If I get a task or look at my calendar and it tells me I have to, at 10 o'clock, I need to send this email, I'm going to be honest with you. For my preferences, that's not going to work. If I see something that I have to do something at a specific time, I'm going to say, no. Who do you think you are to tell me that? Then I go through I go down this whole mind mental flow where I start talking to myself about when and what I'm going to do. Again, one of the reasons we're finding our preferences is so we are able to identify in the given moment, do I need to have structure or do I need to operate with the flow and go with what's going on? We as humans need to identify our preferences, understand when we thrive. This also goes to kind of knowing ourselves. Are you a creative person in the morning? Are you more creative in the evening? When do you think best during the day? Again, taking intentional time to identify these preferences is going to help us to actually do more. When we're comfortable with our productivity, when we're at ease with our productivity, we're going to be able to accomplish more because our mindset is focused on that. And we're not worried again that you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do whatever. It's this mindset, it's this mind mental battle that we don't want to go through. So we want to identify our preferences, figure out what works for us. We also need to experiment and adjust. What works now might work different during the summer. We're just ending, when you think about it, we are just ending the summer. We're moving into the fall. So the daylight is changing, school's happening, schedules are changing, things are going on. When you think about it, there's different times of the year. So we're going to want to adjust and experiment, right? We're going to want to experiment and say, what is working now? We want to be flexible with our structure and with whatever we're doing. When it comes to productivity preferences and productivity habits, being flexible and allowing ourselves to be flexible is key. The moment we start to force ourselves to do something, again, where is our mind going to go? We're going to go down that path of, what am I doing? Why aren't you doing it? Why haven't I done it? And that's not where we want to be. We want to be in that place of action where we're able to take care of our tasks. Also, we need to be sure to incorporate breaks and downtime. When it comes to ourselves, getting our work done, scheduling breaks and downtime is more important than ever. We are so accessible. We are so able to be reached, and that can take a lot out of us. That can take a lot of energy. When we're wanting to figure out our productivity preferences and we're wanting to say, what does workflow look like? We need to make sure that we have breaks and downtime. Okay, so we just talked a bit about, are we a productivity flow or a productivity structure person? Again, the structure person needs work guidelines. They're maybe going to schedule specific things at specific times. They're going to add to their calendar when they're going to do things. I'm going to call someone, or I'm going to do these at this specific time. When we're talking about a flow person, they need a little bit more space to be able to make moods based on what needs to happen and where they are right now. Why do you think I'm talking about productivity preferences as we're getting ready to go into a productivity boost series? The reason is because the best way to boost our productivity is to make sure that we're operating on our best efficiency, that we're doing our best, and that we are following through with our preferences. So as we're doing the Productivity Boost series over the next 4 weeks, we're going to continue to talk about productivity preferences so that we know how to implement habits that are going to work for us. So let's move into Productivity Boost. We're going to talk about our Core 4 series. And the first topic that we're going to talk about today is about creating a daily process. What is a daily process? When you think about it, each day you have multiple emails, chats, maybe CRMs, maybe you have an Asana, a Monday board that you need to check. When you think about it, every day, you have multiple things and places that you need to touch or check each day. It could be how many email addresses that you have. All of those things, all of those actions left on their own are going to take a lot of time throughout our day. What our goal is to say, let's create a daily process so we have one place and we know one time when we're going to look at all of those things. I'm not saying you're only going to look at your email once a day, but I'm saying that there is going to be one time a day where you check everything that needs to be checked. Why do you think creating a daily process is important? I'm going to tell you a statistic that blew my mind. Were you aware that 45% of your everyday life is habitual? I'm going to repeat that. 45% of your everyday life is habitual. So we repeat tasks. We do the same thing 45% of the time during our day. So we spend almost 11 hours of every day repeating the same activities and processes or thoughts each day. So that's why I'm saying, so when you think about it, 11 hours a day are doing the same things. When it comes to boosting our productivity, what we want to do is look at how can we streamline? Let's use that knowledge to our advantage. My mind was blown when I heard that amount of time. But then I started to add up all of the things we do every day, and I realized, yep, we really are habitual humans. So what we want to do with our productivity core 4 series, specifically starting with creating a daily process, is say, how can we take that information to our advantage? When it comes to productivity, one of the things that I have shared a lot and that I think is important is a productivity equation. Now, this productivity equation that I've got is based on Franklin Covey's productivity equation. And what it does is it looks at 3 elements and how they are connected to help us either to spiral to the positive or spiral to the negative. So the 3 areas are event control, focused productivity, and self-belief. So if we have event control over what's going on during the day, and we have time to be focused and productive, and our self-belief is positive, what's going to happen when those 3 things are going on is we're going to spiral forward. We're going to spiral to the positive. If we don't have one of these elements, for example, we don't have event control and only focus productivity and self-belief, at that point, we're going to be spiraling to the negative. The reason we're looking at this today, and when we're talking about our Core 4 Habits series, is one of the best ways to get in event control and be in control of our events throughout the day is to look at our daily processes and how we're working smarter, not harder. How are we streamlining them? What are we doing to make it easier for us? And so that's what we're going to look at today with identifying how to create your daily process. Being intentional to create a daily process is going to be a game changer, but you also have to be committed to it. One of my very first clients that I started working with, a German telehealth expert or German engineer telehealth expert, shared a quote with me that's also been very helpful and useful. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. Thank you, Christian, for sharing that with me. But it again has been pivotal to think we have control of the systems that we design, and it will get the results that we give it. And so that's where, when we're talking about a daily process, it's so important to think about the system and a system that you're going to be committed to, because the only way it's going to make a positive difference is if you actually follow through on it and make it yours. Why do you need a daily process? It's going to make your day more focused and engaging. You're going to have more control, and you're going to have the knowledge that the things you need to touch on a daily basis are being touched. It also allows you to trust the process and know that each action has been completed daily. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but a lot of times at the nighttime, when I'm trying to sleep like we should be doing, is when my mind begins to start asking me questions. Hey, did you message that? Did you read that email? Did you respond to that? Hey, did you? And so I start to ask myself, oh, did I look at that? Oh, did I check that? And so then, of course, it's the middle of the night and I'm thinking this, and so sleep isn't going to happen. If we have a daily process, I can squash that thought, because I can say, wait, I went through my daily process today, so I know that I checked everything that I need to. So hush, brain, and let's go to sleep. So one of the benefits of daily process is that you're going to each action has been completed. Remember, it's about building habits in a long game. This is a long game activity that we're doing. It's not short-term instant gratification. The benefit of having a daily process is going to feel great at the beginning. It's going to be a cycle where you're kind of like, this might be a pain. But then once you really build the habit and develop what works for you, again, it's going to be a time that's critical. I mentioned a client earlier. I've had a client that I've worked with for over 4 years. We've created his daily process. We still work together. And when we're working together, he goes through his daily process steps. It's a long-term, and the benefits are long-term. Again, being able to focus on what you need to and know and trust that, hey, 45% of my day is repeating. Let me not spend too much energy on that. Let me focus on that as much as I need to so I can spend energy and focus on other things. Be intentional again. Be intentional. Find what habits you engage with easily. There's clients that I've worked with that have said, Megan, I know I should check my voicemail in the morning, but I just don't want to. It irritates me. All right. What if you check your voicemail in the middle of the day or at the end of the day? There's no rule on some things. You might be working somewhere where there is a rule and follow that, of course. But when you're talking about your productivity and what you're doing, there is no rule that says you have to do anything at any specific time. So if you don't like it, then change it. You have complete control to do that. Again, this is going to help us take control of how we spend the hours in our day by not having to recreate the wheel and expend energy figuring out new processes and what we're going to do every day. We're able to focus. And again, we're able to save hours, effort, and energy. What's included in a daily process? So let's talk about how we're going to create your daily process. The place that I always tell people to start is to identify the categories where you have information you need to touch. So for example, what are your current projects? What are all the emails that you need to check? All the emails that you need to check. And I've had clients who are like, oh, I have this personal one. I only check it once a week. All right, put it down and say that you're going to check it once a week. The goal of this is to be a repository so you know all of the places and things you need to be. Chats and messages. Are there Slack channels? Are there Teams channels? Is there Signal? What are the different, again, we have so many ways to chat and to receive messages. So what are the places you're going to, or you need to look? If you have kids in school, is there a school portal for your student, your child that you need to look at? If you have a college student, are there different organizations? Are there places you volunteer that you need to check in? Anything that you've got that you need to check, you want to identify and you want to add to your list. Voice messages. I know not many of us have voicemails anymore, thank goodness. Voice messages is an option. Project management CRM tools, as I mentioned, and schedule and calendaring. The goal is for you to create your daily process by identifying what are all the repeating tasks or places I need to check. Once you identify where everything is, I always suggest to use a tool that works for you to create your daily process. Use a tool that works for you to document this. Some people like to do it in a Word document. I've had clients write this on their notes in their iPhone. I've had clients write this by hand. What I've found that a workbook, doing a workbook, a Google workbook and listing everything out is the most effective tool, but find what works for you. What you'll notice here is what I've identified. Again, now that we know all of the projects, the email addresses, the priority project management places we need to tool, we're going to document, we're going to list that. And then the other thing that's important to list is about how much time does it take to spend on that each day? About how much time does it take for you to go through your emails? About how much time does it take for you to check your text messages? Another thing we want to be sure that you check on a daily basis are your scheduling tools. This could be, do you have a scheduling link? Do you have a Google Calendar? Is it a Teams calendar? Do you have a personal calendar? How many calendars? Do you also have a paper calendar? We want to identify, again, all of the schedule places, because once a day, we want to make sure that we have followed up, knowing what our schedule is. Again, taking time to be intentional to say, here are all of the categories where I have actions or things I need to check or do each day, identifying those categories, and then identifying every place within that is important. Critical, and the icing on the cake for that is, again, to figure out how much time it takes. Because what you're able to do is you're able to create and start to identify, what is your daily process time summary? How long is it going to take me each day? We know it might not be perfect. We know that it's going to change, but we want to start to identify how long it's going to take. Why do you think that is? Because when we know how long it's going to take, we can add that to our schedule, and we'll know on a daily basis. I know that for example, for me, it takes me about an hour to go through my daily process. It takes me about 30 minutes to an hour. Right now I have extra projects, so it's taking me a little bit more, but it generally takes me 30 minutes to an hour. So on my calendar every day, I have a daily process check-in appointment so that I can add it. And I can make sure that I follow up on it. It's important that we set realistic expectations for completing our daily process. For example, I just told you that I like to identify the amount of time that it takes so I know how much to block off on my calendar. One thing to be aware of, and this is why we talked a little while ago about structure or flow, is we need to think about our daily process and how we build habits. It's not as much about being dependent on a specific time, but it's about doing it. So what we want to do is, once we know the actions of our daily process and how long it's going to take, we need to identify within ourselves, is that something I'm going to schedule on my calendar every day? Is it something that I'm going to be flexible with? So for example, my daily process time on my calendar is at 10 a.m. because it's after my morning calls and it's when I'm able to sit down. So mine is on my calendar at 10 a.m. But for example, when I look at next week, one of my clients is on vacation, and so I'm not going to have calls as early, and so I can then flex and I can adjust the time. It's important to think to yourself, building the habit is key. The specific time, that's not what we want to be connected, or that's not what we want to be attached to. We want to talk about when we're doing it and how we can do it. We can be flexible again. We can be flexible to complete our daily process when it best works for us. Connect your daily process to the start of your workday, or when you're logging in is a good idea, or when it's connected to something. So for example, again, I do mine between morning calls and project work, which happens to be at about 10 a.m. Pacific. That works for me. I have some clients, again, that do it when they log in. I have one client that does his daily process after lunch. It's up to you. It is completely up to you. Continuous improvement and adjustment is key. If you don't like how something feels, then change it. How we got to my client doing the daily process after lunch is because he hated doing it in the morning and he wasn't doing it. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And I said, okay, is it that you don't want to do it anymore? Or is it that you don't want to do it anymore at that time? He's like, yeah, the time sucks. Well, okay, if time sucks, we can fix that. And so again, it's about taking the time to be intentional. This is your time to plan your day and to have fun. Remember, this is the life you have worked very hard to create. Enjoy it. Have fun. Make sure that your productivity habits allow you to enjoy the life that you've created. So, 4 steps to implement a daily process habit. You're going to add a block of time, the total time on your calendar, and call it process time. You can adjust it as necessary. Your second thing, you're going to complete your focus time and daily process. So each day, you're going to have a time scheduled, then you're going to follow through with the time, and you're going to be done with it. Now, there might be a day when you're not able to, right? Maybe a meeting, maybe there was an emergency, you weren't able to get to it. If you didn't complete your daily process when you said you were going to complete it, or when you scheduled it, you need to reschedule it that day, preferably, because remember, you're checking all of the things you need to do. So it is important to check in at one point or another during the day. And then the fourth step, which is important, identify a method to hold yourself accountable for this habit. It could be with an accountability partner, a strategic productivity partner. It could be with someone you work with or a colleague or a friend. It could be a system that you create for yourself so you know you're being held accountable. One way to do this is not creating just an idea, but a daily reality by creating, actually, again, this is another Google spreadsheet where what I've done is I've listed the categories of the daily tracker, and then I have a 30-day follow up. So for 30 days, I'm able to go through and identify if I was able to complete each of the elements during my daily process and my daily habit. Each week, I recommend making sure by the end of each week you have looked at this. Identify notes, adjustments, anything you can do to improve. Taking time to track this daily is going to help you to identify any barriers or hindrances that you might have. Because remember, once you identify something doesn't work, you're going to be intentional to adjust it so that it is working better for you. So we've talked about our daily habit process and how we're going to build it. But what are the next steps you're specifically going to take? The next things you're specifically going to do is you're going to schedule time to create your personalized daily process. So identify the categories and all of the tasks and actions you need to complete. Then you're going to commit to scheduling and completing your process for 30 days. Because again, this is a long-term investment, so it's worth spending the 30 days. Be honest about what works for you and what doesn't, and what you want to change. And also then connect with an accountability partner. Remember, when it comes to building habits, specifically productivity habits, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So however you're thinking about this going into it right now is what's going to happen. So how can you set yourself up for success? Another quote that helps remind us of the importance, and if we're ready, is you get what you expect when creating a system. If you put a half-ass effort into it, setting it up, the result will be half-ass. That was said by Megan Sandwick. Obviously, that is a different version of the quote we heard earlier. But again, the whole idea is we get what we expect, and our results are going to be based on our effort. Our intentional productivity habits are going to be built because we spend time on them, because we're honest with them. We take time to find our preferences. So the first productivity habit, when we're talking about productivity core four, is a daily process. Being intentional to say, when am I going to touch and handle all of the things I need to do within a day? By taking control of this, again, we're going to reduce our lingering thoughts of, did I do that or not? We're also going to know and be confident that if something needed to happen on a day, we touched it, we looked at it, and we know about it, and we're able to respond accordingly. And then we're able to take intentional control of our day and make sure we're spending our time focused on what we want to be focused on, and the actions that we're taking in our production, and we're not worried about figuring out how to get some of those repeating tasks done. So that is the very first productivity core habit, is a daily process. The next thing I want to mention to you today, I want us to think about, let's talk about this week's productivity quick tip. So it also is very much in line in scheduling, but this is how we end our day. And what do we do? What intentional actions are we taking before we log off? So I'm going to give you 5 steps that you can take each day. Why do you want to do it? Because logging off at the end of day and being done with work is important. Being done with everything is important. Logging off and having time for you is essential. And so we want to be intentional about what is it that we're doing before we close down. What are the things we need to do? So here's 5 steps that I've got. My closing time 5 recommendations. 1, do one last check of your messages for the day. Has anything come up? Is there anything you need to respond to? 2, review today's actions. When you look at your list of things you were supposed to accomplish, did you get them all done? Are there things you didn't? If not, you need to move it forward and reschedule it. Either keep it on your task list to assign a new place, or maybe even move when you're going to do it. So you want to review today's actions and reschedule anything that wasn't completed. Then I do a high level review of tomorrow's schedule. When I'm ending today, while I want to close out today and be done, there's a part of me that does want to look at what's coming up on my calendar and my projects. Part of the reason I do this is because that's what's flowing in the back of my mind, right? Then I know, oh, right, tomorrow I'm going to have a meeting early. Oh, I have a new client. It just kind of gets my mind, oh, I'm going to be talking about intentional productivity tips. Again, it just gets your mind started to think about the next day and what's to come. Because when we think about our productivity, we want to be able to be focused on the important things when we need to be focused on them. So by closing up at the end of the day, we're able to say, all right, I've finished this, I've rescheduled this, I know it's coming up tomorrow. The reason that it's so important is for reason number 5. You need to visualize how you want to make tomorrow happen. You want to visualize what it's going to look like. Because if you see it, then you can achieve it. So it's important to have that idea of what you've done, but more important, where you're going to go so that you're prepared for it. Okay, so my recommendation for this productivity quick tip over the next couple of days, starting with today. Before you log off, what would your closing time 5 be? Again, mine is to check messages, to review today's actions, reschedule anything I didn't finish, review tomorrow's schedule of product and projects, and then visualize that tomorrow, it's going to be a good day. Tomorrow I'm going to crush it. Taking that time, intentional time with your closing 5 allows you to do that. So today was about creating a daily process. Today kicked off our productivity boost and our very first habit in the core 4 productivity habits. We talked about our productivity preferences. Are we a productivity flow or structure person? And what do we need in the moment? How can we create a daily checklist? And then our productivity quick tip of what is your closing time 5. As we're ending, I want to ask you, what is one thing one nugget, one idea, one suggestion, one tip? What is one thing you learned today that you're going to be able to implement into your productivity habits from today moving forward? Take some time to write that down. My name is Megan. I am so excited. It has been great to be with you today as we've been talking about intentional productivity tips. I will be with you again next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can find me on YouTube at Global Radio TV. You can find me on YouTube at USA Global Radio and TV or Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck's YouTube channels. Please remember to like, subscribe, and even get a notification when a new episode comes out. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I look forward to talking to you again next week. And now, here is a word from our sponsors.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the secrets of visual impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette. Building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you. Five Little Known Secrets for Dementia Caregivers with Tracy Cram-Perkins.
Hi there, I am Tracy Cram-Perkins, the host of the Dementia Home Care Show here on USA Global TV and Radio. I am also the author of the book of the same name. And you'll see this QR code. This is for an extended version of the same talk. So if you want to see the full hour-long version, feel free to scan the code and go to that website. Stick with me. We'll talk about 5 little known secrets to make it a little easier to do dementia caregiving. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is a healthy aged brain, age 55 and above. The one you're seeing on the right is an Alzheimer's disease brain. It is in moderate disease. It is shrinking. It has holes in it. The memories that were in those holes no longer exist. When you're learning something, let's say in kindergarten, you learn how to tie your shoelace. Well, then by the time you're in second grade, your brain remembers that information from tying the shoelace and applies it so you can learn more quickly how to tie more complex knots. So the brain is hardwired to do this for us. So it helps us learn faster so it doesn't take us long to acquire knowledge. The brain is looking for the information and they pick the closest to wherever that hole is. Let's look at some tips that we can use to help do that.
These are 5 simple tools you can use as a dementia caregiver to help your loved one. The whiteboard is a useful tool in recording the day's activities and the answers to repetitive questions. The calendar clock is a very useful tool to orient your loved one on the day, the date, and the time, and remind them of upcoming appointments. The communication cards are a great tool to bridge the gap when they can no longer tell you what's wrong. And then there's the pill minder for when your loved one is still able to take pills but needs prompting. The final tool I want to share with you is the memory book. It tells your loved one's story. It's a great tool for distraction, redirection, also as a conversation starter, and telling you where they are in their story so you know how to answer their questions.
Music is probably the most powerful tool in your toolbox after laughter. Music is a way to maintain connection. It sticks with your brain longer than any other thing, including reading. When you're having an issue with somebody, you can play their favorite music if you move them to another room, something that makes them happy, or you can start singing songs together from their childhood. These are some of my favorite books for caregivers. My show airs on the 3rd Tuesday of every month, and you can view past episodes on YouTube. Thank you, everyone.
This program has been brought to you in part by Tracy Cram-Perkins. Connect with her and order her book at tracycramperkins.com. For more information about Alzheimer's disease, support resources, and how you can help, contact the Alzheimer's Association at 1-800-272-3900 or visit their website at www.alz.org. They offer 24/7 helpline support and a wealth of information to assist you and your loved ones.
Hello, I'm children's author Diane Floyd Bain, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and radio because I love positive messages. And who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.
Meet Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, President, Founder, and Chief Listening Officer of USA Global TV and Radio. She is a certified life, career, and executive coach. Dr. Jacqueline is the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Behind the Green Screen and Adversity to Awesome. As the listening mentor, she teaches children and their families how to listen at an elevated level through the book series titled The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. The Creative Hearts Awakening book series features heart-centric creatives who share their awakening journey. Through the Power of Listening educational course platform, people can get certified as elevated listeners on USA Global TV and Radio. Learn how to center yourself and align with nature through the power of nature, plants, and shrines. The Journey of Chakra Psychology course will educate you on the chakras and their meaning. The Intuition of the Heart course will help you understand how to trust your intuition. Learn how to face the shadows of self and understand the impact of following trends and materialism. Set boundaries and ask for permission to help establish better relationships, deeper connections, and more authentic conversations. Take your communication expertise to a higher level with the course for curious humans. After all, we are not robots. Looking to start your own podcast platform? Get everything you need in the Podcaster Pro package with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. How can music, breath, and your voice set you free? Find out with the Power of Listening courses. Dr. Jacqueline is a certified meditation teacher, yoga instructor, and Juice Plus distributor. She will help you create a plan for your healthy lifestyle. As an expert in the art of interviewing with over 3,000 hosted and/or produced live broadcasts, Dr. Kerbeck helps her clients stand out as global broadcasters. Dr. Kerbeck's books are available on Amazon. Start your listening journey by reading. Tune into the Listening Mentor TV show, Fridays on USA Global TV, and learn how listening can be your superpower. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, MBA, DBA, certified holistic life, career, and executive coach, certified yoga sculpt teacher, certified meditation teacher, the listening mentor, singer-songwriter, founder, president, chief listening officer of USA Global TV and Radio. drjacqueline.com. Thank you to all our elevated listeners, team members, animal characters, and co-authors. Contact us at 215-852-9406. Jacqueline at drjacqueline.com.